Audio Jeepers, or is it boys and girls? I'm going to say Jeepers this time. We're here with Dennis Wood of Teraflex. And, Dennis, I will go in to type in teraflex.com. And I seem to do this more often than not. I put in 2 R's. So Terra Flex. And I don't know why. It's just 1 R. It's simple. It's just 1 R. You don't have to,
it's a thing, though.
Oh, good. It's not just me. So Dennis has been up to his eyeballs in off-road world for over 40 years. Oh, you poor son of a bitch. This time period is a reflection of his, this time period is a reflection of his background, wisdom, and enthusiasm for off-roading, and is in no way indicative of his mental and physical deterioration. His journey with Teraflex started about 2002 and continues to this very day, mostly because Teraflex has been unable to find anyone that will work as cheaply as Dennis. There is no end in sight for his Jeeping journey. And you've been through a purchase or two, at least one purchase of the company that you're working for, and that is quite often the death knell of jobs. That's the opportunity for the company to get rid of dead weight. So congratulations on not being dead weight. And I think I've said this before, or having enough inside information where it's just not worth the trouble.
Yeah, it's your value to compensation package, and if your compensation's low enough, then your value offsets that. So
yeah. I've actually been through a couple of jobs where the company changed hands, and within a year they said, "Hey, thanks a lot for all the hard work that you did. Here's a package." Why? I'm so invaluable. Why? So
got those emails right and left. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So as I mentioned before, teraflex.com is where you need to go. You guys know about this place because you've been there. You've been looking at stuff going, but honey, can I get this? And they said, no. So they have really good stuff. Many members of the Jeep Talk Show team run the Falcon 3.3 shock system. The steering stabilizer that has the knob on the end. I mean, you have to have a knob. I think you could probably sell. Yeah, I think you could probably sell a shock and didn't do anything with the knob. Just put a knob on it. People got to have it.
Especially if it's colored.
Yes, it's red, of course. So, and I'm not saying anything bad about the shock. I want one too. So, I'm sorry. I was going to jump into the coilovers, but let's start with you. We've talked about this in the past, but not recently. I thought it was an interesting story because how you got started with Teraflex, if I remember correctly, is that you were kind of across the street from the company, and it wasn't called Teraflex at the time.
Yeah, that was clear back in the MEPCO days, Military Equipment Part Company. That's right. So MEPCO is a big name in the Jeep world for years, but it's a lot of the military equipment stuff. So it was a lot of Willys and, the old school stuff, CJs and all that. Well, when the TJ came out, that's when Teraflex made the jump. MEPCO was actually doing it. So MEPCO sitting there and they want to sell some lifts for TJs, but there weren't any TJ lifts. So they said, well, let's start making a lift for the TJ. And then they got the Teraflex name, which I think is genius. That's an awesome name. That's kind of says earth.
Yeah, better than dirt or earth or yeah.
Right? So anyway, they started that, and we actually came out with the first Coil spring lift for a TJ, and before we started talking about SEMA a little bit. And we had a relationship with Bestop through MEPCO because MEPCO was one of their big dealers. So they said, well, put your Jeep in our booth down there. So that Jeep went into the entrance to the off-road hall. They had that thing sitting in there with the coilovers. Geez. Yeah, we've come a long way. With the coil springs on it. I mean, it was a nothing lift. We're talking springs. Initially they didn't put the control arms. They tried because that was back in the urethane bushing days, Right. So they tried to do some arms on it to get some caster back and put urethane bushings in it. Then we put it up on a ramp and went, holy crap, there is no flex in this thing. So we had to pull those back off and go back, and that's when we came up with the flexi arms and everything for them. So But anyway, yeah, that goes way back.
It's hard to believe there is so much stuff available now that we take for granted.
Yeah.
And it just a spring that gives you a little lift was a major thing back then.
Well, yeah, a coil spring? What? Who puts coil springs on anything? You know, in fact, people were converting TJs back to leaf springs, you know, because
really?
What we do, you know, we change it. You know?
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you got to try it.
Yeah. So weird. So anyway, so that's all going on. Well, so Teraflex starts growing and they start building and they move buildings and they moved a building just right across from my shop. I was All Terrain Auto Care, and I'd been there for a lot of years. I had a partner before that, and so we'd been there for a lot of years. And they came in and they said, we're doing this shop over here at the MEPCO thing, but we're doing the Teraflex list. Why don't you just, you're doing a lot of lifts for us and alignments. Why don't you just come over and just take over our shop, and just run this for us? And of course I'm like, and leave all this, I mean, I have awesome bills here, taxes to pay and, employees to deal with. This is pretty awesome what I got going here. So anyway, it goes on for a while. Finally, the guy that I'm in the building with, he wouldn't sell me the building, and I could see the writing on the wall. No building. When you're done with your shop, you're just done. Right. There's nothing there, So I say, all right, the guy's not selling me the building, so I told him, let's do this. So I remember it was winter time, and we just moved all my guys and all my stuff across the street is where they were.
Oh, neat. I wasn't going to ask, but I was feeling bad for those employees. Like, sorry guys, I'm leaving.
Yeah, it was kind of cool because we could sit there in our parking lot, and watch them. They'd get a Jeep finished and they'd run it down the road, or maybe they'd put a set of gears in or something and they'd run it down the road, and we'd see them lock up about 40 or 50 feet past our front entrance, because we were just down the street a little, so we could always tell when they didn't put gear lube in the rear end or something that.
Yeah.
So anyway,
So when you went to work with Teraflex, were you basically doing the same thing you had been doing in your shop?
We were all terrain, so we did cars as well. So we did a lot of car maintenance and stuff. We had a big customer base just with car stuff too. Mm-hmm. But the Jeep thing was creeping in more and more at that time. We're starting to do more Jeeps. I picked up I want a set of shocks at Jeep Safari, and I was driving. I had a Bronco. I had a really nice old build-up Bronco, and I was wheeling that down there. And then I go to the thing and I win these 95. No, what were those things called? The old Rancho 9000s with the air adjust on them. Oh yeah. So I win these things. Only I don't have a Jeep to put them on. So what do? Well, I go buy a Jeep. So I buy this Jeep, and then I started doing more and more Jeeps at the shop, and so it all just kind of trickled down. So when we went across,
how did the Jeep compare with the other, like the Broncos? I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about like a 67, 69 Bronco. That range.
This one was a 70. It was a newer body stuff, like a 70. What that would have been, a 74 or something.
Oh, so it was an O.J. Simpson special.
Yeah. Bam.
So how different was it between the Broncos of that time and Jeeps? Was the Jeep built simpler? Because people always talk about how simple the Jeeps are. I don't know that they're simple.
Yeah. Well, that was still CJ days, and then crap clipped to what? Well, 96. So that's a lot of years but I had that Bronco for a lot of years. So I was wheeling that probably right close to when the TJ came out. Mm-hmm. So when the TJ came out, those guys definitely had an edge. That TJ was a good little ride. He did a little lift on it with the coilovers and big flex, and Broncos were still, that IF, not really IFS, but
it was like a cross beam type thing, wasn't it?
Exactly. So that thing, you'd lift tires all over the place and all that. So I look at hills that I just cruise over down in Moab, don't even think about it. That was like this mega obstacle in my Bronco back in the days,
Mm-hmm. Right.
like the
Well,
quarter and the rear end. So
and the cool thing about the that year or that model Bronco was it had a removable top, so you could actually pull the top off of it and drive around like it was a Jeep, like it was a TJ or a CJ or any of those things. It was really neat. I thought it was a little.
Cool.
I didn't learn this until much later. I had an '83 short wheelbase Chevy truck 4-wheel drive, and I only put a 4-inch lift and 37-inch tires, and I had to pull myself up into it by using the steering wheel. And the thing back then was a 6-inch lift, and of course that was the leaf springs. It was all leaf springs as well, and it was fun down here in Southeast Texas, going in mud, doing that type of thing. But it wasn't until I got my first Jeep that I realized just how amazing the Jeep was, being small, nimble. It's like a goat. It just goes wherever you want it to go. And the big ones are nice. They're fun. Especially driving into the drive-through, and people looking up at you and handing your stuff. But the Jeep is completely different, I think.
Oh yeah, no, it is. It's a different platform all the way. Yeah, just works better for if you're going to wheel. I mean, each one has their probably niche that it'll work off, and we can translate that to the new Broncos of today. I keep seeing this old battle of this does this, and then they'll say, well, yeah, it's Bronco, it's not a Jeep, and I'm like, okay, that pretty much that says it. It's not a Jeep. So don't try to.
It rides so smooth. That's what you want to. That's what you like to hear whenever you're an off-roader. It just rides so smooth.
But they have a good niche, Once you
absolutely.
That overland, and they ride great down a dirt road and stuff, and they'll wheel, but you got a lot of body hanging out there. You got to be careful with. So it's just a different deal. And I don't even do this is better than that thing. It's like, what are you trying to do?
Oh yeah, no, it is if this is what you like and this is the vehicle will do that, then absolutely. Now I know some Bronco owners have PTSD, so if you're a passenger and you just snap your fingers, they'll freak out.
What, they think it's a tie rod breaking or what?
Yeah, exactly. Which is a shame. The Ford engineers knew this was going to happen, but they were saving a nickel, and they came up with this design. So, but and I think I've told you this before. I love this. It is they boast that they have independent front wheel steering, which is wonderful. When it tie rod breaks,
out.
The wheels go either way. Independent.
I remember the first time I broke a tie rod in one, just backing off an obstacle nice and gently, and then I was just going to turn to go around this rock, and they go, oh, you just broke a tie rod. I'm like, no, I didn't. I mean, almost in neutral, just idling back. Yeah, it's broke. Yeah, just that tire just hooked on that rock a little bit. It done. Mm-hmm. But they're easy to change. That's good news.
Yeah, the engineer was thinking, and nothing, and really, I just the Bronco can be fixed. You can fix this so it doesn't happen, but it's just something good to tease the Bronco owners about, frankly.
Yeah, it's just like a Jeep, 35 in the rear, and you're braking axles and tires just checking out. Hey, yeah.
I always tell people when they break a Dana 35, if it didn't take out a complete city block from the explosion, they were lucky, because that can happen. So anyway, you went to work for Teraflex, and you were doing the same thing that you were doing in your business, and then things changed for you there. How long were you doing that, or maybe you're still doing that type of thing?
Yeah, I did. I ran the shop for, I don't know, I think it was 8 years doing the shop thing, and then and it was still, we actually called it MEPCO's All Terrain, so we just kind of had two businesses running there. It was sort of weird, but and then at some point we were doing battle with or competing with some of our dealers, in the area where, we sell Teraflex parts. We also install them, and, it makes it so that we're beating these guys' deals on it because we can buy the parts, but whatever, so it just kind of got to be awkward. And the manufacturing side was growing so big. They said, we're going to just pull back from doing the retail side of it as far as service work, and we would just go straight to manufacturing, and and using the shop for R&D and that kind of thing. So,
well, it sounds like that's really the big play money wise, because now you can focus on getting the copies of your product out there selling instead of having to go slow down to install them. So that sounds like a brilliant move.
Yeah, when that happened, that's when they said, "How about if you just come over on the Teraflex side and do our training, and go to events and stuff like that." And I'm like, "What? Not sit in the shop and work on things all day and night? I can just go places and stuff." Huh. All right, I can try that, I guess. So it worked out great. So they bought me out, and I just went to work for Teraflex, and then the Mark Faulkner that owned it at the time, he was a visionary as far as the video. He could see that the video stuff was going to be a thing of the future. People were going to YouTube, was starting to grow back then, and so what was that? Would have been 07, yeah, probably 07, 08, kind of right in there, and so they. That's when he hired a video producer guy that does all the video work and produces it. And that's Steve Thomas. And Steve and I have been doing the videos all these years since then. It's been amazing.
I think it's wonderful that Teraflex sticks with their people. I love that they don't try to go with the next new shiny person that can do things. I love that. That relationship. It sounds like not a family thing, but almost like a family run business.
Yeah, well, it was. We still have that I don't know what you call it. You call it
it's like a small company, or
and like we know all the guys in the sales and this, and the engineers, and so we still all talk, and because the engineers, I'll talk to one of them. He'll be working on a project. What do you think of this? I don't know. Oh, that's awesome. I broke this when I did it. Oh, I could beef it up right here. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff that goes on, and then even meetings with what should we come out with next? What's the market looking for? What do they need? And so. Yeah, there's a lot of that still goes on. It's definitely thinned us out, with the buyout and everything. They're looking for bottom line really hard, so they thinned out some of the employees, some of the areas. But yeah, no, we're still it's a little different, but it's not. Everybody says, "Oh my gosh, they're bought out, they're gone." Well, we're still our own little entity here. Mm-hmm. We still have our own marketing. We have our own, county department, engineers, whatever. We're just all focused on Teraflex and the Falcon shock side over there, which has grown amazingly. So,
speaking of the Falcon shocks, I remember you telling me that you guys were trying to talk to a company that did shocks, and they weren't interested in working with you, so you designed your own damn shocks, which is the Falcon shocks, which I thought was wonderful. And you guys are hitting it out of the park with these shocks.
Yeah, that's been those guys, man. Stuff they put together has just been amazing, because they're just like you were saying. We just needed some things changed on them, and some of these companies they're great companies, but they're just too big to try to make those little changes just for our little niche kind of a thing. So,
and it wasn't like they were being mean. They just looked at it, I'm sure, from money standpoint. We could do this stuff, but we need to focus on our stuff, and we don't have time to mess with your stuff. So, I think that's great. How long ago did you guys start making shocks?
What's it been, like 7 years now? And that's an interesting thing too, because it's 7 years of the Falcons being out there. We did a 3-year warranty on them, and we're still not seeing those things come back.
That's wonderful.
They did everything. They always told me, they said, we built these things with, how would they say it? No one has better parts inside of their shocks. Some might be using the same, but none have better. So they got the best seals, the best, all that kind of stuff that you're going to buy out. And then on the shock bodies and stuff, the the way that the finish is on them, like a hard anodized finish on the outside. That's just, it doesn't corrode out. 1,000-hour salt spray. That's one of everybody's beefs they've always had is you spend all this money on a shock, put it on, and in 3 months through a snowstorm or something, they're just all pitted and they look terrible. Hey, we're Jeepers. We like our stuff to look good out there, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, the Falcons are really hanging in that way. But yeah, and then that just the way that they could spend so many hours. That first run of Falcons on the J case they did. I remember going down to Sand Hollow and we spent a week down there. That was after the engineers been working on it. They spent so much time, and it was my learning about shocks as I went down and spent some time with these guys because they
I
they would
bet.
take it out on a track. Boom, boom, boom. All right, how did that go? Okay, it was good through the loops, but it was really bad on the chattery. We would slide off the road, and that kind of stuff was such an eye opener to me that your shock tuning can keep you on a washboardy, gravelly road better, you know? And I'm like, yes, I guess it makes sense. They don't chatter so much, so they hook onto the road.
Right.
So when they finally got it dialed in, we were comparing them to the shocks we've been using and said, these are awesome. They work good for this, but let's change this and that so that, you know, so that it works. Yeah,
that had to have been a very slow process because I think you can do one thing pretty easily, but to make it work on multiple things, handle multiple things accurately is such a time consuming because you adjust one thing, it screws something else up.
It's crazy. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it. It was an eye opener for me to watch these guys do it, and then I'd get in them and say, so what do you think? You know, but, well, my experience.
Yeah. Well, you were already, you were already a wheeler before you started with Teraflex. So did the amount of off-roading go up or down after you joined Teraflex?
Up, 100%.
Yeah, I figured it was. And was that would you consider that a bonus, or did you get tired of it? Good.
No, you know, isn't that weird? Because it is funny because some people just burn out. Like Steve, our video guy, I'll tell him, well, what'd you do this weekend? I says, oh man, we went down to Sand Hollow, we ran this and that and the other. And he's like, are you kidding me? That's what we do all the time. You get it down there and just go really else. I'm like, yeah, you know, I still love it.
Well, see, I see this as very important, especially with you talking to engineers and testing this stuff. If you're out there for a job, it's kind of like, and throw them some stuff. Yeah, you need to look at this, this, and this. But if you're an avid off-roader, you want this stuff to work the way you want it to work and the way you like it. And that means that if you get the Teraflex stuff, you're getting something that an avid off-roader had their input into it. And I think that's very important. I think I like that, that whoever is in the company or owns the company or whatever, if they are a real Jeeper, a real off-road person, it shows in their products. Yeah.
No. Yeah. 100%. You know, I always wonder how some of these guys can even come up with ideas, and how do they know what they need to do without having somebody that's out there just beating the stuff off and breaking it, you know? So we do that.
Well, this is the same thing that NASCAR does, right? I mean, they go out there and they break shit, and then somebody has to engineer the fix. So this is very similar, I think, to that. Speaking of Sand Hollow, I mentioned this to you earlier. So Natalie with High Lift Off Road has bragged several times, I was out there with Dennis Woods. So Natalie says hello. Yeah. What's that? What'd you say?
She's driving my Jeep too.
Okay, good. I thought you said stole, so that's the reason why I wanted to make sure I heard it right.
No, she's awesome. It's really good to hear that she's doing that with you guys.
Oh yeah, she's hilarious, especially when her cat's getting in front of the camera. Oh, and you mentioned YouTube earlier, and I would think I'd mention now. I've been forgetting to do that because we're known as an audio show, but for the last 6 months, 8-9 months, I don't know how long it's been. Every episode is available on YouTube, including this interview. So if you're listening to this and you want to have a good look at Dennis, you can go over to our YouTube channel and watch this interview.
The disappointment will be palatable.
So I've seen you a couple of times out. I've only been twice. So I've seen you twice at EJS, And I will stand there for 10 minutes for waiting my turn to talk to you, because everybody wants to come up and talk to Dennis. How do you like going to those events, and do you get to wheel when you're out there? I mean, I guess you do, because it's only Thursday and Friday is the vendor event.
Yeah, we come in like what do we get there? Probably the Friday before, so we got Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Nice.
So we'll do some wheeling. We'll usually have new products for that show, so we'll go out and get some pictures of them and do some videos and stuff. So yeah, we do get to play. We don't get to play too hard, because a lot of times, like I say, it's some new thing on this Jeep, and they're like,
you don't want it broken. Yeah, you don't want to show it broken. That's for sure. Yeah.
Although, yeah, one time on our engineer, they made these drop brackets to do the lower control arm. Instead of lengthening an arm, just drop the brackets to keep your nose dive and all that. So, it's just another way to do it. But they had these things so far down there. They're like, yeah, these are really flat. It's going to give it. Oh my God, they're hanging down so far. We're going to drag them on everything.
That's right.
No, you'll be surprised. And I'm like, yeah, this can't be. What I'm going to do is drag these on everything.
Let me show you something.
I'm so ashamed. As we drove that thing, every time I could find a rock ledge or I could pull up on it, bang on those things. So yeah, by the end of it, they were pretty beat up. He's like, look what you guys did to these. Yeah, gotta have something that'll hold up to that.
Well, if the words weren't working, the evidence should. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I actually put
all that. So I'm like, good job.
Yeah, I mean, with the TJs and the XJ, I have an XJ I bought brand new 25 plus years ago, and I went that route with the control arm drop brackets, and it makes the lower control arms a little more level. Makes
great on the road.
Yeah, theoretically, it makes the ride a little better. I really didn't notice that big a deal. And I guess you could even get more articulation out of that, because now the arm has further to drop. But that was my concern too, was hitting stuff, because it's low hanging fruit. So,
yeah. And it's kind of weird when you drop them down that far, when they come up, instead of your bump stops having a nice flat hit, because that arm comes up at an angle, now all of a sudden it's putting your bump stops sideways. So it does crazy things to your bump stops. So it's the classic Jeep thing. You change one thing, it screws up 8 others,
Mm-hmm. Well, we have a saying on the show: no modification goes unpunished, and there's one of the things that you learn with the internet, the Googling, the shows like ours and stuff. You can hear what the right way to go is. And I mentioned this earlier. I'm not sure if I mentioned it while we were recording. Many of the Jeep Talk Show team members are avid Teraflex shock, steering stabilizer.
Awesome.
That is the thing to purchase for them. And I think I've told you this before too. Those rat bastards, they put that stuff on their Jeeps, and that makes me want to get it. So, and I mean, it's good stuff. I spoke to them a lot about the shocks. Why do I need a reservoir and that steering stabilizer? Why do I need that? I mean, God, I want it because it has a knob on it. But
I'll talk to people at the show, and I'll be like, how do you use your Jeep? I just drive it to the beach. I don't need this and that. Yeah. Well, you could do the monotube. It'd probably work just great for you. Be a little less money. Well, does it have that knob? Well, no, you don't get the reservoir of the knob. That's, you're going to go from a $900 set of shocks to a, $1,700 set of shocks to do that. But they'll have the knob? Yeah. Well, let's just do those. Right.
All that wasted time. What you need to start with is, are you a pro knob or anti knob?
But they look really cool.
They do look cool.
Tire,
well, I mean, the shock itself the design looks good. And admit it or not, Jeepers like their Jeep looking good. They may not wash it, they may not, but if you can put something on there that looks cool, it just makes you feel better about your Jeep. And that's really, the Jeep is a expression of the driver, of the owner. And it's neat that you can put stuff on there. And it's not like they don't do a good job. They do. So you're getting something that looks good, which I'm sure one of the reasons why you guys designed it the way you designed it was what I'm talking about. You wanted it to look good too.
Yep. That 1,000-hour salt spray test, all that, the quiet. I mean, we started talking about the coilover thing as the 3.3, with the reservoir transitioned in. One of the reasons that I've had coilovers on all my crawlers, and stuff. I got an LJ that's all coilovered and yada yada. So yeah, you're moving things. A coilover makes total sense. You don't have room for this spring and a shock. But I keep looking at these. I just spent whatever $80,000 for this 392, and now I'm going to put a set of coilovers on it that go and pop and snap and everything. I'm like, no, I don't want to listen to that on my Jeep. So when the Falcon engineers started working on those shocks, that was one of their top priorities. And some of the stuff they did on them, like just because we have that hard anodized body, they're all that same gray color. That anodizing on those things is actually harder than the chrome on the shaft, which was, I'm like, really? Yeah. Excuse me. So they did the slider. So when it goes up and down on that smooth body, it has a bearing service in there. You need a drink of water. This thing right here.
Sure. Yeah, I think I was mentioning before we started that Szabo, or I may have mentioned this in the interview, but Mike from Platinum Off-Road put a set of Teraflex coilovers on Szabo's rig, his JLU. And I think it was Mike said, who knows, you guys could have told him it was the first set just to make him feel good. But the first set of coilovers, and that was one of the things he talked about, was it was supposed to be quiet. And I won't say that the JLU that Szabo has is his daily driver, but on 42s, it's kind of I think hard to be a daily driver, but I can understand how you might want to be able to drive it if you need to, or whenever you want to, especially in Dallas, whenever the ice and the snow comes out. It's nice to have a capable rig that you can use.
Well, they just switched my JL. I ran with the 3.3s and a 3.5-inch lift and 38s, just bumped it to 40s and went to the coilovers. And so I'm like, all right, I've done a lot of seat time in all these. In fact, I just did a bunch of seat time in the JK, the new coilover JK. They got those out. And but anyway, that change, I'm Captain Critic on, I want to listen to a coilover, but just quiet. And, even where the two springs meet, where the springs rotate as they compress, because there's a lighter and a heavier rate spring on a coilover. Right. So those things will rotate. They got a bearing service in there with roller bearings in there so that those things can rotate dead quiet. Nothing.
Well, that's gonna increase or decrease the wear and make them last longer.
Yeah. And then even in the mounts where the gimbal bearings are, top and bottom, instead of just having an open hind joint that just open to the elements, they'll start rusting and squeaking. These things are all covered. They're a sealed bearing, so that it's number one, it's solid, so your shocks can do what they need to do and not be sloppy, but quiet again. So
yeah, if it's not clunking around, it's not going to be quieter. So before we get too far down this road, we're going to have people that don't know what coilovers are, and and why you would even use it. Now you kind of mentioned it, that the coils and the shocks get replaced by the coilover, and it's like high-end stuff. This is what you put on a high-end vehicle, whether it's a Jeep or anything else, because it gives you more travel, more flex. So take it from there. What's a coilover?
So it's interesting. Just because you have a coilover doesn't give you all those benefits that you say. But if you do a coilover right, yes, you can get all those benefits you just talked about, like more travel. And the reason you get more travel is you changed all the shock mounts. A lot of these guys are just buying a coilover that bolts into the factory locations. And I'm like, well, all you just did is you just lost a good 3 inches of travel because of all the stuff inside the shocks and all the springs and everything. You just lost a ton of travel. There's no magic there. It's a shock and a spring. But the way you can have the magic is if you have that shock and a spring mounted correctly, so that now all of a sudden that shock, instead of being giving you 9 inches of travel, has 13 inches of travel. And if you can, if it's usable travel, because you could buy a 13-inch coilover and think, okay, well, what if I bought a 20-inch coilover? How much better would that be? Right. Well, yeah, that 20-inch coilover is all awesome, but there physically isn't room to put it on a Jeep without like a JL without going through the hood or something, without getting
right. And that's when you see the hoops sticking out of the hood. And it's for more travel, right?
And then it's still a JL. You've still got all those body parts. It doesn't physically give it room for the axles to rotate, for the tires to not hit the body, the gas tank, the drive line, all that stuff. So when these guys did it, they said they went to the maximum we could do without just cutting the thing apart. So
making it a buggy, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So we had 13 inches of travel, and you use every inch of that travel. It's all usable, and it's dialed in. Nothing rubs. It's pretty incredible. They did a great job on it.
So let me try to put this in for the newbies. Would you say that additional travel, and I understand it doesn't stop rollovers, but it decreases the possibility of rollover because you now have a tire that is on something instead of hanging out there is weight to flip the Jeep over?
Yeah, and a lot of that happens as you're going up over that obstacle. If you're say this tire's on the rock and this tire is now hanging in the air because you have no droop. When you come off that rock, you just droop down and it just gives you that boom, like you can roll that thing easy. If your axle is drooped out and touching, when you go over that, your hood, you don't even hardly notice it's there. The suspension goes over it. Your hood stays level. You're not threatened with that big rollover thing and all that. Mm-hmm. So the difference, a shock and a spring, there's your standard suspension. You got your spring sitting there and you got your shock there, bump stop inside it. Now Coilover takes those two things and puts them together. So now the shock is inside the spring, and now they call it a coil,
Right.
So, but it also gives you two of them. So you've got a lighter rate and a heavier rate coil sitting on that coilover. And in between them is that surface where they have to rotate back and forth. Most of them just use I don't know, hard nylon or something for it to slide on there, but we use the roller bearings in there, so it's really quiet because you'll get in a Jeep, bong, and like, what is that with the coilover? So what happened is the springs just went bong and settled because you got in, you feel like, wow.
Really? I did not know that. I've never been in a coilover vehicle, so that's interesting.
Yeah, they make all kinds of noises.
So let me ask you this, because I don't want to freak people out about having a loop, a piece of pipe sticking out of the hood.
Yeah, no.
You don't have to do that for coilovers.
No, why would you? No. You don't want to do that. You want to keep your Jeep. You want it still a JL or a JK or something. You're not trying to turn it into a rock bouncer. That's not what you're trying to do with it. So yeah, we did it with as far as we could go, keeping all the internals. You're not like moving batteries or something. You're definitely doing some fender weld, just the inside fender weld, not the outside of it, trimming and stuff to get that mount in there. And we don't run a mount. Usually you'll do two coils, and then they'll have the brackets that come up, and then they'll usually run a bar across the top of to keep them from flexing and stuff. You can't do that on these new Jeeps. There isn't room in the engine compartment to go running a piece of 1.5 inch tubing across the top of your motor. So we did it all in the bracing of the bracket. So there's
nice
flex on them there. So the JK ones, the JK, and when I first saw what they were doing, I'm like, oh, you guys nailed this thing. So what they did is they moved the coils from inside. That usually your tire's out here and your coil. Your spring is your shock, I should say, is underneath, and kind of at an angle like that. Well, they moved them to the outside of the tires, so now all of a sudden that coilover is between your tire and the frame. Well, to do that, holy cow, that's a trick, because there wasn't room for it before. Why is there room for more now? Well, they actually they kind of cut into the frame along there and box it in and move that coil over the outside. And it does require you have a 72 wide axle in it, so you have to be wider. But if a guy's putting coilovers on a JK, he's wheeling it hard, and he's probably already out that far anyway. So, but anyway, that little trick right there, man, I loved wheeling that JK for the last few weeks. It's been doesn't have all the electronics biting you,
Right. So what did you notice the most about it with the JK that you were wheeling with the coilovers?
So just number one, the ride. You have two springs on the coiler. One of them's a softer rate, one of them's a heavier rate. So a lot of times we'll hear, "Oh, I got a dual rate spring." Then you look at the spring and you're sitting there at ride height, and all those coils are completely compressed. They're touching each other, and then the bottom one is the active part of the suspension. So if there's no flex between the coils, that's not an active part of the suspension. It's like a block sitting there.
Yeah, it's
now,
a hard
when you
ride.
flex it out, yeah, that's nice. It'll keep the spring in place and all that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It works great. Just don't call it dual rate. It's not. But a coil over, true dual rate, because when that finally compresses, there's a transition that you can actually adjust on it. So I noticed right off the soft, trail ridey stuff around town. It felt all nice. And then because it's got the Falcon tune in it, man, I wouldn't even hook my sway bar back up. The stability on the body roll was just crazy nice. And I was just running them on soft. And I did 90% of the time. And then I'm like, well, I got to go. Let's try this thing on some whoops and just beat it up. So turned it up for that. That made a difference. I'm talking a lot, I think.
Oh, no, that's great. We're here for you. Nobody wants to hear me talk. The steering stabilizer that has the knob on it, that is, what is that, EF 2.2, a fast adjust steering stabilizer?
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's the same for the JK, JL, and JT. Yep. Oh, before we get on that, can you run coilovers on the JT, on the Gladiator?
Yeah. We just got a set. You can do a hybrid kit, because Gladiators that's a good question, because Gladiators, the front's the same as a JL.
Right.
It's all same. So there you go. Bam. We got those coils already done. On the rear, we did that big extended travel kit on the JT that took them to like the Mojave comes out of the box with 10 inches of travel. It was amazing. Well, ours is 16. So we all of a sudden kicked it out to 16 inches of travel. So they were like, okay, if we go to a coilover to get 16 inches of travel, we're going to have a coil sticking out of the back of the truck somewhere.
Sure.
So we did a hybrid kit, so you can do the coilovers in the front and then that keep your extended travel in the back. Or we just did a full coilover kit on one. And we've got three of them running around now that we've been running them on. And because I wonder, what's the difference going to be on that? I'll tell you what, it's again, just that ride at normal drive and choppy and all that is pretty dang amazing. And then still crank it up and go through the whoops thing. So it's a tough call. I still think if I had one that I'd already done the extended travel long arm kit on it, that maybe I would just throw the front coils on, the coilover kit on it, and go with it for a while. I mean, it does give you the easy adjustability of a coilover where you can just slide the coil down, slap the clip in it. Boom. Now you just gained an inch of lift. It's really easy to do that kind of stuff with it. And you can play with spring rates for loads and stuff. So I think it's just going to depend on the guy, what he's using it for. But yeah, okay. Coilovers all the way around for all of them now.
So we have a Jeep Talk Show host, Chuck, who has never owned a modern Jeep. He loves the older Jeeps. He would wheel. He has a Scrambler, 81 Scrambler, and he's come down to Texas a couple of times on our Jeep Talk Show events and wheeled it. And it's so much fun seeing that. He recently bought a Gladiator, and he is in love. He cannot believe, he actually rode with me in my Gladiator at one of the events, and he was like, holy shit, you can wheel and be in air conditioning. This is nice. Yeah. And so he got a Gladiator. It's a Mojave, like what you mentioned. And I tried to tell him about that, because I learned about that kit for the Gladiator that gives you the 16 inches of travel during one of our interviews. I didn't know about that. And you actually talked about pinion angle in the rear. I forgot about it. I wanted to talk to you about that tonight too, because I want to get more information on that, repeat information, I'm sure. So what is the kit that allows for more travel in the Gladiator?
So if you're just using the regular extended travel, what happened is they did, out of the box, they come with a long lower control arm and a really short upper control arm. So you're dealing with the radius, like as an arm rotates, one's in this tight of the circle and one's clear out here going, way out here. So the rate of those arms movement changes. So this one's going to be really quick, and that one's going to be kind of slow under it. So it's kind of hard to.
Right.
But basically what's happening is as your axle droops out, your pinion angle just dives on those Gladiators. It's just really bad. When it dives, your U-joint is now just getting to that bind angle and they're just breaking them. So the solution everybody did is put short shocks on it. So then you don't have any travel, then it won't break,
All right.
Yeah, great solution. No. So our guys actually spent some time on it and redesigned the upper arm bracket. They made a bracket you could bolt to it, to bolt your arm to it, that takes care of that strange, nose dive on your pinion. So it's just a bolt up kit, easy to do, but it just solves all that. It doesn't restrict your axle droop, your travel on it, which we want travel. You want to be putting a short shock on there. That's
right. And you don't want to give it a reason to break a U-joint. So do you guys do much work with Steer Smarts?
Yeah, no, we know the guys over there really well. Yeah, they're good dudes. Yeah.
So Jay, you probably know Jay or know the name. Jay sent me a buttload, and I like to say in buttload because we've all been there, of Steer Smarts parts. And one of the things he sent me was a rear adjustable track bar.
Yep.
On that kit that you're talking about, does that track bar get replaced from the stock?
It comes with a track bar on it. Thank you.
So the and I'm sorry, I don't know if you mentioned the name of the kit. I want people to be able to go and look at this stuff. And also I want to tell Chuck.
Yeah, it just comes with, we have the long arm kit, any of our JT long arm kits, the RT, the IR bushings in it. Anyway, any of those kits come with that extended travel if they're 3.5 inches or up. So part of the kit is the extended travel section of it, but you can add that extended travel kit to anybody's. You could throw that on just like you can throw our shocks on other lifts or whatever. You could do that extended travel kit. And
so that's what it's called, extended travel kit. And you just mentioned 3 inches. What if you have the Mopar 2-inch lift?
Yeah, you're still all right because the shock length isn't going to be so much, because it's not much of a lift. The shocks aren't that long, so you're not going to get that much travel out of it to have a problem with it.
Okay, good. All right, so let's jump over real quick. I don't want to keep you there all day. The great information. You're always a very a wealth of information on this stuff. On the steering stabilizer, and I'm assuming you guys have other steering stabilizers that don't have the fancy knob on it, but I'm interested in the fancy knob one, of course. Are you pro knob or anti knob? I want you to use that the next time you go.
It's funny you say, why do you even need that? Well, probably until you had one, and you're like, oh, because what'll happen is I'll get on a road where the ruts are there, it's really windy or whatever, and I will pull over and turn my shock up, crank up my shocks on the 3.3s, and it's you're less than a minute, it's like 30 seconds. You do your shocks, crank that, you're back on the road. You probably haven't even been hit by a semi by then. And you can just cruise on down the road. And that little adjustment that you do is such an eye-opener. You were just fighting the wind and getting blown all over. The ruts in the road were yanking you. And all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, this is straight and level flight.
And it makes the trip. I mean, especially if you're driving 20 hours to Moab, now you're not fighting the damn Gladiator. And I think Gladiators are worse than JLs. You correct me. But I think Gladiators are really bad about wandering. And so this on a Gladiator would make a huge difference.
Yeah, they did have some issues, but yeah, the wheelbase helps them though. They're really stable because of that long wheelbase. But then you say, well, if it works so great like that, why don't you just leave it on firm? Well, I don't want to leave my shocks on firm because when I'm on the highway just booking like that, I don't notice these little choppy rocks that are just gonna, start putting blood in my urine by the end of a big trip. It's not gonna. It's not.
Well, that's just a good weekend, man.
Yeah, really. So we can crank those back down. But on the steering stabilizer, if you leave it on that firm setting, you'll just go driving into a parking lot. Oh, there's one right there. You go, oh, holy crap! It's stiff. It'll actually slow you down as trying to make a really fast steer. So if I'm rallying through the desert or something, I'll put it on soft so I have my fast steering back and then a guy that's, I can feel it starting to wobble just a little there, then put it on medium. gone, so it gives you a lot of reasons to be able to adjust
well,
that.
the cool thing is you can be Scotty on the Enterprise. He can go in there and you can override things and make adjustments. And I think everybody likes monkeying with stuff, I would say the only danger is when your wife's driving your modified, highly modified Jeep. And I'm not even talking about a buggy or something like what you've been riding, just the stuff that has adjustments on it. And you're trying to explain to her, oh yeah, just go to blah, blah, blah and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, man. First example ever I had an old 01 Dodge, Cummins, and they famous for heating up their trans through the torque converter. So I just put a torque converter lockup switch in it. And I'm like, I'm done.
Yeah.
Locked up.
Sure.
And it was great doing all my towing and stuff. But I forget maybe bump it or something when I go, and my wife, the driver, she's like, why is the truck shaking so bad when I come to a stop? I'm like, oh my gosh, she's ripping the thing apart. I mean, the converter's just totally locked. So yeah, you got to be careful with the buttons.
my fear was, and this is straight from the factory, my fear is that shifter on the automatic, on the 8-speed transmission, it just takes a bump and now you're manual shifting. And I tried to, I made sure I reminded her about the RPM gauge. And if the engine sounds like it's running, really high, don't drive fast. Look down and make sure that you have this in automatic. I mean, it's wonderful having these little things, but if you're an enthusiast, and I'm not saying men's the only people that are enthusiasts, but when you're an enthusiast, you learn these things, you understand why they're there and how you can use them. Yeah. That's kind of the fun of having it. But it is a concern for the significant other that may not be as enthusiastic as you are.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so, I say this every time. It's fun talking to you, Dennis. You're a wealth of knowledge. We need to wrap this thing up. Tell the kids, because you know how the kids love the social media. Tell the kids how they can find stuff about Teraflex or even your own stuff on Instagram, on the TikTok, all that stuff.
Teraflex, yeah. Teraflex.com and Falcon.com. They kind of merge them together eventually, but both those will give you some good information. The Falcon lots on even the truck shocks. So we make them for your tow rigs and everything else. So they've got
I'm glad you mentioned that. I often forget about that.
Yeah, and they make a difference. We put them on our 1-ton Ram that I drag everything around with, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's so much better because I was getting a lot of that. You'll get some of that bucking stuff you'll get through some of these roads, and it just gone. Yeah, so I was like, thanks, guys. It's awesome. It's worked great on it.
You got to feel really good, especially being there so long and being such a part of Teraflex and its success. You have to feel really good whenever you drive something and it's part of something that you've worked so long at, and it's a good product. And
you're 100% right. It's just it is, because there'll be some things I'm like, all right, that's probably not that big a deal, like we'll make a protector for the entry getting into your Jeep. All right, nice. Okay. Nobody else makes those. Okay. Floor mats, yeah, okay, we got those. But they're cool, it's got Teraflex on it and stuff. But then we do something that's really innovative, and do these coilovers or the shoot that tire carrier thing that we've done with on the JKs and the JKs and JLs. Yeah, some of those things are just like, okay, that's cool. That really made a difference. So
yeah, it's got to make you proud, and I think it keeps you excited about being part of the company and stuff. So
yeah, that keeps me.
How long have you been there now?
I've been here. What was it? 21 years coming up this year.
Wow. Oh, and the other thing is, I forgot to mention this or ask this: if somebody is interested in knobs or coilovers or any of these things that we spoke about, they can contact you guys through the website, chat, phone, whatever, and talk to somebody about this and get the direction to go.
And I'll have Jeepers will contact me. I'm just, Dennis Wood on social media, on whatever, Instagram and Facebook. I don't do the TikTok thing because it's just more than I can handle, So, but they can message me and they'll ask me questions and stuff, and I'm happy to do that. It's kind of fun to talk to people, pictures of their rigs and stuff. So, it's that whole Jeep community thing. It's just
exactly.
I really enjoy it. It keeps me going.
Exactly. Well, Dennis, thank you so much for being here. And I mention it every time. There's such a wealth of knowledge. We talk about so many things, and I feel like I haven't scratched the surface. I hope you'll keep your calendar open for a future interview.
No, you guys you're fun to talk to. It's a great podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. Nobody was more surprised than my wife that people enjoy talking to me.
It's true.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Okay. All right. Thank you much.
Broadcasting since 2010.
You're my friend. You're my new friend.